What's going on, guys? Kevin here. Today I want to share with you guys my absolute favorite places in Banff National Park. Banff is a small mountain town just a few hours west of Calgary, located in Alberta, Canada. Banff and the Canadian Rockies showcase some of the most pristine and beautiful mountains in the entire world. There's so much to do here, from hiking to backpacking and trekking, to rock climbing, to ice climbing, to just exploring different alpine lakes and road tripping through the area. There's so much to do here. It's super accessible, so it is a great place for everybody to visit. Before we dive in, I just want to ask if you could please like this video and subscribe to the channel. I have a ton of other travel guides for the Canadian Rockies and all sorts of videos on travel, hiking, van life, and just all around outdoor adventure. So please like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel so I can keep on making these videos. But without further ado, let's jump right into my top 10 hikes and places to visit in Banff National Park, Canada. So for number one, we have the Big Beehive, and this is probably one of my all-time favorite hikes in Banff National Park. And aside from how amazing the Big Beehive is, this is an awesome hike because it includes so many other things. When you hike up to the Big Beehive, you get to see all sorts of different vantage points of Lake Louise. You get to visit Mirror Lake, Lake Agnes Tea House, and then finally the Big Beehive, giving you beautiful views of the mountains in every direction around the area. So the Big Beehive is a 6.8 mile round trip hike with 2,545 feet of elevation gain. It is a loop hike that also includes Mirror Lake, Lake Agnes, and the Tea House. The Tea House at Lake Agnes is open from June 4th to October 1st. The tea house itself sits at 7,005 feet above sea level, where you can enjoy a cup of loose leaf tea, homemade mountain treats, and just enjoy the views while you're hanging out. It's super cool that it is up there, kind of just in the mountains. I really like that about it. And just a quick note on this, don't forget to bring cash, because when we went, they did not accept credit card. In my opinion, the Big Beehive gives you the coolest angle of Lake Louise I have ever seen. Being above it just makes that aqua blue color that much deeper and more rich. It is so beautiful. We hung out there for hours this morning. We had some beautiful inversion clouds that were just sweeping across the landscape, and it's honestly some of the coolest time lapses I think I've ever shot. So the trailhead for the Big Beehive starts right at Lake Louise parking lot. You walk around the lake before cutting up into the trees, and then you come out around Mirror Lake, where you can see the Big Beehive directly above Mirror Lake. And then the terrain starts to get a little bit more rugged, but there's not going to be any climbing or scrambling on this route, so any person with moderate fitness can do this hike. I would definitely recommend packing micro spikes though, because at the end of September when we did the hike, it was already snowy as you got to higher altitude, and spikes definitely helped us on the steeper terrain towards the end. Number two is going to be Lake Louise. I know we just kind of touched on it in the Big Beehive, but just as itself, you can't have a trip to Banff or Canada in general if you don't stop at Lake Louise. It's one of the most beautiful places in the world. Getting on top of the Big Beehive in number one, it's great for adventurers and people looking for a big day hike, but you can get just as much beauty from the lake shore of Lake Louise itself. Canada has made the lake extremely accessible, and the parking lot is just a few hundred feet from the lake. Parking at Lake Louise is $11.70 USD, which is a small price to pay for this place. There's tons of hiking trails, some of which I'll go over in this video aside from the Big Beehive, but I think the coolest thing about Lake Louise is its accessibility and making it so anyone can go. The entire lake shore is paved, so anyone can walk around it, and it's a great afternoon activity, just hang out and enjoy the views. It may come with more crowds than the Backcountry, but it is amazing that everyone can enjoy this place, and there's very minimal effort to get here. And at the area, since it is a little bit more commercial, you can have kayak rentals and get out on the water if you would like. There are bathrooms, there's coffee shops, so they definitely have it all for just hanging out here for a day or two. It's awesome. Next up at number 3 is going to be Larch Valley, and this is easily the most beautiful fall foliage hike I've done in my entire life. As a landscape photographer, I have chased fall colors all over the world, but Larch Valley definitely takes the cake. It's unbelievable and honestly hard to believe that it is real. My first time hiking Larch Valley was on my 3rd trip to the Canadian Rockies, and honestly, before this trip, I didn't even know that Canada got fall colors. It may have been naive of me, but I always just assumed it was too cold that far up north. But clearly I was mistaken. Larch Valley is surrounded by some of the most beautiful mountain peaks in the Canadian Rockies and Banff National Park. The hike up to Larch Valley is going to be 4.2 miles round trip with around 1,500 feet of elevation gain. It's definitely worth every step. And then once you're in Larch Valley, you can kind of walk around. There's like a good half-mile stretch where you can kind of walk back and forth, see different trees, how they line up with different peaks, and it's an awesome place for photography, and I couldn't recommend this hike enough, especially people who love chasing fall foliage. Next up at number 4 is going to be Johnston Canyon, and this beautiful canyon hike is 3.2 miles round trip with 859 feet of elevation gain. This takes you all the way up to Upper Falls, but if you would like to shorten the hike, Lower Falls is only about half of the distance and about half of the elevation gain. But if you're up for the hike, I highly recommend going to the end. It's a stunning hike through some beautiful canyon rock formations with beautiful aqua blue Johnston Creek flowing through the entire canyon. And just a quick note, for those that don't know, the kind of crazy aqua blue color found in this river and all of the blue alpine lakes in the Canadian Rockies, this color is coming from a mineral referred to as rock flour. It's in the water and it kind of gives the water that deep blue or green color, and it kind of has that milky look to it. I love it. I think it's super cool, and it's definitely nice to know that not everything in the world is an Instagram filter. The water up here really is that blue. So it's awesome, and Johnston Canyon hike, you really get to see it with all of the 7 waterfalls that the canyon has to offer as you kind of walk through. And the whole trail is practically paved. There's a few points where you're on a dirt trail, but it is very well taken after, so this is a great, easy day hike. Next up at number 5 is going to be the Plain of Six Glaciers, and this is a big day hike from Lake Louise. Plain of Six Glaciers is a 9.1 mile round trip out and back hike with 1,929 feet of elevation gain. It's a long day, but it is so worth it. It's one of my favorite places in the national park. The Plain of Six Glaciers is far beyond Lake Louise, and the entire environment changes as you hike. So once you get above tree line, the terrain becomes more and more rugged, and the views just kind of open up to these stunning peaks, glaciers, and rock in every direction. Looking back, you have a great view of Lake Louise in the distance and the resort as well, but just a bit before the final viewpoint, you're gonna pass the Plain of Six Glaciers tea house, which is so awesome. You can grab tea, homemade mountain snacks, soup, and more. Just make sure to bring cash, just like the Lake Agnes Tea House. And once you are up, kind of making your way to the top of the Plain of Six Glaciers viewpoint, to be honest, there was a quick moment where I felt like I was hiking in Nepal or Pakistan or something like that. It is just such a stunning area. And again, I did not do this hike until my 3rd trip up to Canada, but I highly recommend it to anyone up for the mileage. Number 6 is going to be Peyto Lake, and this is a 1.5 mile round trip hike with 275 feet of elevation gain, and this is kind of including all of the different viewpoints on the hike up, so you can get different vantages of Peyto Lake. The lower viewpoint is awesome, but I really enjoy the upper panorama viewpoint. And honestly, the entire trail is just beautiful once the lake comes into view. This is also one of the most famous lakes in the Canadian Rockies, up there with Lake Louise. It's a must and a classic if you're traveling to Banff. It's a little bit further up of a drive. If you're staying in Banff, it might be its own little day trip, but couldn't recommend it enough. Or if you're driving up the Icefields Parkway to Jasper, you're gonna pass it, so you definitely have to make the stop. And if you look closely from the top, you'll actually notice that the right side of the lake is shaped like a wolf's head, which is one of the cooler things I've ever seen in Mother Nature, so definitely check that out and see if you notice it as well. Next up is going to be exploring or staying at the Fairmont Chateau Lake Louise. This is one of the most beautiful luxury mountain hotels in the world. I've never personally stayed here as it is super expensive, and every time I've driven to Canada, I've always van lifed it, but rooms here start around $300 USD per night, and they go all the way up to $12,000 USD per night for one of their nicest suites, the Marquis de Lorne suite. The hotel is surrounded by mountain peaks, the majestic Victoria Glacier, and it is right above Lake Louise. For those who don't stay at the hotel, there's an entire area of the hotel dedicated for visitors who aren't staying there. There's tons of awesome shops and places to explore. It's a great place for souvenirs, and I would recommend it for anyone visiting Lake Louise. Next up at number 8 is going to be Sentinel Pass and Minnestimma Lakes. Sentinel Pass is a trail that starts at Moraine Lake, and it is actually the same trail that gets you to Larch Valley, but once you hike through Larch Valley, the trail continues to go up and you will reach a few lakes called Minnestimma Lakes. They are beautiful, and if it's not windy, you will get to see some awesome reflections of the mountain peaks. After Minnestimma Lakes, just a little bit further, you're going to reach Sentinel Pass, which is a beautiful mountain pass that sits at 8,500 feet above sea level. It gives you great aerial views of Minnestimma Lakes and the surrounding mountains, and if you would like to continue hiking, you can scramble up Mount Temple, but this would involve some class 3 and 4 scrambling, and I would only recommend that for someone who has experience summiting a peak like this. But Sentinel Pass is an awesome day hike from Moraine Lake. Next up, of course, is going to be the famous Moraine Lake. Similar to Lake Louise and Peyto Lake, it wouldn't be a trip to Banff or the Canadian Rockies without stopping at Moraine Lake. It's like the poster card of Banff and of the Canadian Rockies. It's one of the most picture-perfect places out there. It's a famous screensaver on Apple and other computers, and honestly, I've seen photos of Moraine Lake all around the world in reference to someone talking about Alpine Lake. The best way to enjoy the lake is to walk around the lake shore, explore the cafe and gift shop, and hike up the rock pile. The rock pile is only a half-mile round-trip hike with 50 feet of elevation gain, but it gets you just above the lake shore so you can see the classic view of this lake. It's safe to say that Moraine Lake should be on every single person's travel bucket list. And next up at number 10 is going to be Constellation Lakes, and this is a great day hike that actually starts at Moraine Lake. So after enjoying Moraine, you can head off for an afternoon hike and visit the 2 Constellation Lakes, which is a 4.7 mile round trip hike with 1,079 feet of elevation gain. And when I have hiked here, Bree and I have had this trail all to ourselves, which is really nice, and it seems there isn't too much foot traffic here, so it is a great place for good views and some nice solitude. I'm going to add in one bonus one. I could go on for days talking about awesome places in Banff, but I want to include Bow Lake and Crowfoot Glacier. This is on the northern side of Banff National Park up near Peyto Lake and the Icefields Parkway, but this is an incredible aqua blue alpine lake that's on the side of the highway, and it's a great place for an afternoon picnic or just to hang out. And it's right next to Peyto Lake, so if you're taking a day trip from Banff, might as well do Bow Lake and Peyto Lake in the same day. So that is going to wrap up my top 10 hikes and places to visit in Banff National Park. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I was able to share some trails with you that you may have never heard of and potentially help an upcoming trip that you do to Banff. Anyways, again, if you have not already, please like and subscribe for more. It helps me out so much and I appreciate it more than I can say. But anyways, guys, I hope to see you on a future video. I will talk to you later.